Are you a fan of the show? Are you part of the Salty Hippo Nation? Are you just trying to stay sanitized? If you have not entered our contest yet for Sal the Salty Hippo merch, this is your last week to do so. Be sure to visit Facebook at Bleach Bros Pod for rules and how to enter.
You are listening to the Bleach Brothers Podcast, hosted by Jake the Hater and B-Word.
Welcome into the Bleach Brothers Podcast. This is B-Word and
Ding.
Jake. I fucking hate notifications, dude. I just hate it.
I hate notifying you I'm here.
Oh my gosh. For the listener, I just want to kind of pull back the curtains a little bit. So Jake and I do a pretty good job of managing all of our socials together. We each contribute a little bit to everything. And for those of you who have business Facebook pages, you can post a lot through an app for both Instagram and for Facebook at the same time. You can do Facebook stories, whatever. And then Jake is like the Twitter pro. And so he handles a lot of our Twitter shit. But Jake and I had a conversation this week about, hey, you need to turn on your notifications. Didn't we, Jake?
Yeah. I did, well, because there's a lot that happens in there, and sometimes I can't be on there all the time, and people ask questions for you, and I mean, I could just say, yeah, I always like a dildo in my butt or something, but I want you to actually be able to answer the question truthfully to them.
Oh, I hate notifications, dude. So a few months ago, probably toward the beginning of the year, I decided that I wanted zero notifications from Facebook, from Twitter, from Instagram. I actually deleted Twitter. I had to start Twitter back up when we decided to go on to this project. But so I don't have notifications on any of it because I'm the type of person that as soon as I get a notification, or at least as soon as I see it, I have to check it. Like it's one of those things, like I can't not look. I have to just figure it out. Okay, here's what it is. Here's how to address it and move on. Like I am the problem solver in that scenario. Like if you look at my phone, and I've already gone through my phone, there's no notifications whatsoever. No emails, no nothing.
So you clean it up like a whistle.
Dude, all the time. But I look at my kid's phone and she's got like 200 text messages that she's never seen.
How do you do that?
I don't know. But then I look at some people's email and you've got like 2,000 emails that you've never addressed.
My wife
I don't understand how people do this.
51,000 unread emails, B-Word.
Dude, that's the point in time where you just go through the unread list and you just delete them.
No, you just click mark all as read.
Yeah, that's fine
and
too.
It cleans it up.
I can't handle notifications, bro.
So
here's the thing. Like I have taken part in interacting a little bit more on Twitter, and actually tonight, I ended up responding to somebody's request for us to be a part of their show at some point in time, and I'm like, oh yeah, anytime after the first year, blah 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 blah, and then I get a notification. So what do? I have to look at it. Well, the notification is that somebody else liked your response to the same fucking tweet.
Welcome to Twitter, bro.
And I'm like, oh, motherfucker. Like, we both responded on it at the same time. I don't like it, bro. I don't Facebook for that reason. Like if I'm ever on Facebook, I don't care what people say. They can do whatever they want. I am an Instagram bro, and I am a Twitter no-ho. Like dude, you had to actually school me on what a quote retweet is and what a retweet is.
Yeah,
dude. It was pathetic.
We posted up one and you're like, hey, I did it. I'm like, dude, there's nobody tagged in that. Nobody can fucking see it. So no, it's good to have notifications. I agree with you. The only thing I hate is when they're going off at like the worst time. I don't really care when my phone goes off. I'm one of those people, it's always on silent. I never have my ringer on, nothing. But there are times like, because me and my wife have a few rules. Like if we go out to eat together, we put our phones in our purse. She'll put hers not on silent, so if somebody calls, we can hear it. And the rule is too, whoever babysits our kid or whatever has to call twice in a row because we're not going to answer the first time. if we do movie night, don't have our phones at all. Don't touch them, nothing. They are like on the island behind us. We're on the couch. We're having our snacks, watching a movie, paying attention. So I agree with you that notifications can be annoying, but I'm one of those too. I have to clean everything up. Like I never have the little red circle with a number on it on anything. Like every day I clean my email out. Every day I check through my notifications, which may be sad that means I'm going through that stuff that much, but also I like to clean up things and take care of it and not be somebody that like lets it sit there for a while. But
I know that you are like an extremely organized person, and that's putting it lightly, right? Yeah. You're a bit OCD, and I appreciate that to an extent because I understand that like when shit's going to come up that needs to be addressed, you're just going to address it. Mm-hmm. But what I find is so perturbing to me is that I turned notifications on, and you've already addressed it, but it still has the fucking notification. And so I go on and I'm like, okay, I'm going to address this. And it's already been done. Like, it's just done. Like, yeah, motherfucker.
I will say I take care of things pretty quickly, which is nice. Like, that's why like everybody jokes, like, do I actually work? Because like I can answer something fast, get on it, multitask. I am very good at that shit, B-word.
It's funny, man. I appreciate the dichotomy that we have, though. We work pretty well together. I mean, I know that we typically come in with some sort of banter every single week, and I usually tell you how much of a douchebag you are or something like that. But at the end of the day, from a business perspective, we at least make sure that things are done at least relatively quickly. So that's nice.
Well, and, now that you mentioned it, I would consider myself a douchebag in the sense of I help organize vaginas. So I keep them out of disarray.
As long as you have them smelling in a different manner, then that's fine.
Tomato, potato, man. It's all how you look at life, right? Like I'm a negative person, and I always say, you have to have negative into the battery to make things go around. So I'm going to take your bad compliment and turn to a good compliment.
So you made it smell like a tomato or a potato. Got it.
Hey, whatever you got to shove in there.
Well, with that, buddy, before we get into our stuff today, you ready to make some money?
I love money.
All right.
Your dog is cute. Your kids are adorable. And your cat really does look good in that tutu. But there's only so many times you can talk about how cool velociraptors are, or how much you want to rub that fuzzy belly. How about a podcast with extraordinary people and scintillating conversation? It's The Derek Duval Show. Find it at DerekDuvalShow.com, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you find your podcasts. And no, I will not be attending your cat's quinceañera.
And that, my friends, was the Derek Duval Show. Make sure to give them a subscribe. Take a listen. Dude, Jake, have you listened to them already?
I have. You know how I knew? The notifications on our Twitter.
We ended up messaging back and forth, and we ended up sharing, obviously, some ads back and forth. So, but they sold me in the first 10 seconds, dude. Their intro is badass.
Yeah, the FCC thing.
Yeah,
big fan of it.
I loved every minute of that. So definitely go check them out. And so Jake, we're going to talk today. There's quite a bit going on nerd wise.
Yeah, we're in nerd out.
And you and I are like in nerd country, right? Like we're on geek patrol, bro. And there's a lot of new stuff going on. There's a lot of existing things that we haven't really talked about. So where do you want to start?
Let's start with the newest one. It's Christmas season, so we have Hawkeye that's out.
Okay.
It's not, Disney's doing the thing, once a week. Those are Wednesdays as well, right? They stuck with the Wednesday schedule.
Yep. Which I actually appreciate if we can go there real quick.
Do you mean you appreciate the Wednesday or the weekly?
Wednesday. I would much prefer like if it was like a Netflix show that they just release all of it and you can binge it.
Okay.
I'd much prefer that. I think we talked about that with Gnome on the show before.
Yep.
I'm just not a fan of having to wait and talk about first world problems, right? Like, we're like, oh my God, I have to wait next week for the show. I just finished upon your recommendation and others, The Sopranos, and my God, dude, it was great. I don't know how I hadn't seen this since the inception of The Sopranos. The ending sucks.
Fuck you. It's great. It's a great ending. Fuck you.
I liked the ending to a certain extent, but I appreciate the fact that I was able to revisit all of the episodes when I wanted them on demand, right? And so with the Disney Plus shows, I don't really like the fact that I have to wait for them, but you know,
See,
I appreciate Wednesday.
No, see, I go back and forth on that, B-word, because there are times I love waiting because it gives me time to contemplate, discuss things with you, discuss things with other people, like think about it and do it and process. Because there's time, like okay, a perfect example of that was WandaVision, right?
Yeah,
it was all over the place, like so much stuff going on that it was like I'd sit there and I could go through that nerddom in my brain, going, okay, who could they introduce? What could it be? The difference is like if it was like a Netflix show and you watched it and you got the credits and then you might have an end credit scene and then the next one starts, your answer is instant. And so it's like, it's not as gratifying. Like a perfect example that was like Lost, the TV show was the perfect. Now this was before binging and stuff, but that was a great show where it was cool to wait a week and talk about it and figure out. But on the flip side, there are times I just want to get through the whole damn thing and not wait. Like what if I would have loved if they just released them all at once? I could have watched them all and been like, I'm done with this. And I know it's unfair to say because I'm equating it to one show that I really liked versus another one that I didn't really like. But I'm happy waiting each week with these. When I binge a show, I typically like it to be where I wait 2 to 3 seasons to get, like Dexter. I waited a few years to get into it. And then when I did, I think it was season 4, so I got to binge through 3 seasons. But then the problem is I caught up and then I had to wait. So I appreciate both sides of it. I guess it just depends on the style of show I'm watching, the kind of show I'm watching, and like the actions in the show. So if it's twisty and turny and stuff, I want to wait and I want to contemplate and think about it. So with Hawkeye, with the way the show's going so far, with 3 episodes in, and where it could lead and who could be in it, I'm excited to wait a week. I actually like it. So
I want to touch on Hawkeye because there's a lot of speculation. I don't know that anything's been confirmed, but there's a lot of speculation that they're going to introduce Kingpin from the Netflix Daredevil series.
Thank God.
Vincent D'Onofrio, who is one of my favorite actors, if I'm being honest. But he did a phenomenal job at Kingpin in the Daredevil show. And then there's talk that that Daredevil is going to end up in a future Disney Plus series for Marvel, which I think is She-Hulk. But there's also talk that he's potentially going to be in Spider-Man. Now, the Spider-Man cameo is supposedly, if he's in there, it's a very, very brief cameo, not in the Daredevil costume. But I guess more of his storyline will end up being explored in a Disney Plus series. So I'm looking forward to that. I think that, especially like when we had actually had a conversation on the show about, do we think the Disney Plus series or the Netflix series were better? And one of the things that I liked about the Netflix series is that they had the right to experiment, I guess. Like their fight scenes were a little bit better. Their content was a little bit more mature. I really appreciated that with the Netflix Daredevil and all the rest of them. But how do you feel about some of those bleeding over into the MCU?
See, that's what I was going to ask you is, do you want it when Daredevil comes in? Because, I mean, we're getting the same guy, Charlie Cox, most likely. They're going to bring some of the characters back. I mean, I would just rather them continue the story, I guess, because it left on a great cliffhanger of Daredevil, and that's a good comic series that they were going to, go through.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't mind if they tweaked a few things here, but I hope it's not another origin story. I don't want to start over again. It's sort of like with Spider-Man movies. I don't need to see Uncle Ben every time.
Yeah, I will say Marvel did a really good job of addressing the Uncle Ben thing without addressing the Uncle Ben thing. Because Sony had already done the story twice, right? And I think that was actually part of their ownership contract, is anytime they had a spinoff or a new Spider-Man storyline, they had to have Uncle Ben in there.
I didn't know
At least
that.
I heard that before, but I don't know how true that is. But Marvel did a good job of that. I think Marvel will probably do a good job at introducing Daredevil, and for those who haven't watched Daredevil, will at least give enough of a snippet to know that this is an existing character, and then they can explore that in a different manner on a different show. But I am I'm really, really hoping that Vincent D'Onofrio returns as the Kingpin, because he was the one that I actually wanted to see in a Spider-Man movie. Yeah. Because, Kingpin and Spider-Man have their own storylines, dude. I mean, they've got some killer storylines.
Yeah, they do. And I mean, he helps with a lot of the villains in the Sinister Six and, all that. But would you want like Daredevil and them just to get a film, or are you happy how they're doing all these shows with, like, Hawkeye was always rumored to get a movie, right? And then it never happened. And now he's getting this, and it's also to help bring in Young Avengers and stuff.
Yeah. I think that more of this has to do with the Young Avengers, because you've got Kate Bishop, you've got Spider-Man, you've got, Black Widow's sister. I forget what her name is.
And you got Ant-Man's daughter.
You've got Ant-Man's daughter that they're gonna explore more in Ant-Man Quantumania. You have, Scarlet Witch's kids, Wiccan and Speed, that they introduced in WandaVision, that are supposedly going to be coming back in Doctor Strange.
Right.
So I'm really looking forward to like that storyline, and of course you have Kang the Conqueror and everything to do with that as like the next big bad potentially. So I like the fact that they're coming out with the series. I do think that there are characters that would make really good movies, and then there are characters that would make really good series. For instance, I think that Thor is a great movie. I would not want to watch a Thor television show.
No.
I don't think that would be very interesting. I don't know. And somebody can disagree with me and say, no, they can actually expand on it. And that's totally fine, because that's subjective. It's your opinion. But for what Thor has been in the MCU, I don't know that there's value in a TV series. I like what they're doing with Hawkeye, because he never had the limelight. Like, he was always part of the crew, but he was never the center stage part of the crew. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I appreciated in the first episode of Hawkeye that they even like alluded to that in that Captain Rogers little Broadway musical. Like, he was a side character. So I do think that they can be explored that way. For the Hulk, like for Bruce Banner Hulk, I would want them to expand on a show, only because the rights for the films still belong to Paramount. So
Universal, I thought.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, you're correct. Universal.
Okay, sorry. Yep.
So we can't really get more movies without Universal's distribution.
I agree with you too. I think for me, when it comes down to if I want a character to have a movie or a show, right? Like, perfect examples is Moon Knight's finally getting a show. And at first when this was announced, this was also a long while back with Daredevil and them having shows. And at first I was like, man, I just want him to have a movie. And now it makes sense, because the style of character he is and how enveloped his story is. And I don't think you can do it justice in an hour. And that doesn't mean certain characters can't have it in an hour. Like, I would not enjoy a Hulk show. I would rather have a Hulk movie. I understand with the rights thing, you have a good argument there, but like Ghost Rider is another example.
Oh yeah, Ghost Rider.
I would rather have a Ghost Rider show, with the money in it, because of the style of character he is. But I would rather that than a movie, because I think there's like Thor, and I'm not trying to downgrade Thor here, don't get me wrong, because Loki was an amazing series. But Thor's backstory and everything is pretty simplistic for me, where I don't need 16 episodes to go through it, if that makes sense. Like Black Widow is a perfect example where I'd rather have a movie than a show. The Young Avengers, I would actually prefer them to have a show with all these characters that bring into that and develop that, almost like Titans. Because to me, the Young Avengers are like if and I'm not trying to cross over into DC, but if like Nightwing and all the Robins and everybody got together, that's how I feel about the Young Avengers.
Kind of like what they were trying to do with the Defenders on Netflix, potentially.
Yes. Yeah.
How they were building up each of the characters in their own series, and they were trying to bring them together to fight. Mm-hmm. I believe it was the Hand.
Yes, the Hand. Because
is that who the big bad was?
You want to know why I always remember that? So it was the Ninja Turtles. You know, the Ninja Turtles were created, right?
They were created as a parody of Daredevil.
Yeah, and that's why they fought the Foot.
Yeah, and that's also why they were ninjas. Yeah.
I always just love bringing that up.
But it's like, it's the same reason why Splinter was called Splinters, because in Daredevil, his version of Splinter was Stick.
Yeah.
So yeah, same thing. Yeah, good stuff. So there's been a lot going on with the MCU. I mean, I think, with COVID, that it postponed everything. I think for us nerds, it was something where we got really excited potentially about the upcoming content. I know you and I had discussed after Endgame potentially actually backing off of the MCU and just saying, let's just kind of see where they go from here before we invest. But I think COVID probably sucked us both back into the MCU because it was new content,
Yeah.
would you agree with that to a certain extent?
Yeah, because I had a fear that it was going to be like the original Star Wars, right? 4, 5, 6. That this was our original Star Wars, and then the next one was going to be like, okay, I'll watch it. I'm a fan, but I don't know if I'm going to love it. Like for example, the Young Avengers. I don't know if I'm going to love it. It did suck me in, but I think it's also because they also were smart. I think that COVID helped a tiny bit, and I'm not saying it helped in a regard like I'm happy this happened, but I think it made it happen so they could actually think more and have time, because I feel like sometimes studios and stuff get in that mode where they just need to keep churning stuff out. And that's when you end up like with shitty movies like Thor: The Dark World. Yeah. And I think it gave everybody a step back. It let them, like the Snyderverse, I think really blew up because of that as well. I think it helps with reshoots, rewrites, stuff like, and then come up with a plan. Because if you look at what Kevin Feige and them have announced, they have announced so many slates that have never happened and changed over and over again. And just like, they are starting to allow fans like us, for good and bad, to have more of a say in it, like the Spider-Man thing. Yeah. When that agreement was going to come to an end, oh my God, Twitter, if you would have had your notifications on, B-words, you would have been fucking lit up
Actually,
that day.
Yeah, back then I did have my notifications on. But yeah, I was comfortable walking away from the MCU after Endgame. I should say after Spider-Man Far From Home. Only because I thought it was a beautiful ending to a story, and I didn't know if they can recreate it.
Yeah, and so you had the moment like, I just can't quit you, Jenny.
Yeah.
I just can't quit you.
I did. But mine was more like Brokeback Mountain with, I can't quit you.
Oh, man, you were holding Kevin Feige tight from behind.
Oh, yeah. But when I look at the upcoming Marvel properties after Hawkeye, the next big one comes out December 17th, and you've already purchased your tickets for it, and that is Spider-Man No Way Home.
I got him on Spider Monday, Ben and Jake Day. Shout out to one of our big fans, Ben. I'm sorry, he announced we're his number one podcast, but yeah, me and him are going together. It's gonna be a blast.
It should be fun. I'm actually going to be a little jealous because that week I will actually be in Mexico. And while that will be fun, I'm not going to be able to see the movie on time. But I'm super excited for that movie. I mean, but you and I had a conversation last week that I kind of want to bring up on the show.
Okay.
And you asked me a question. Do you remember what the question was that you asked?
Yeah. Is it going to live up to the hype and your expectations?
Yeah. And so my answer was, I think it will. I just don't know if it'll happen in the same manner that I imagine it now. But your answer was a little different because you, again, were the more negative side of the battery. And you said,
it's going to fucking not live up to my expectations. I'm going to leave pissed off like always.
Yeah.
I feel that, here's the thing. There's been so much hype, and I'm sick of some of these properties having viral, not tell you. Like Cloverfield was the perfect example, right? Like they didn't tell you anything and you got so hyped about it because you didn't know what the hell was coming out. Like we all know Toby and Andrew Garfield are in it. And if they're not, now it's like, what do you do if they're not in there? What do you do if these characters are? I think they've left so much out of the trailers and out in the open that it's so many unknowns that now our fan expectations are way too high, B-word. They are way too high. It's not the fact that I want, 9 villains and all that, but now my imagination has run a fucking muck. And the worst thing on this planet is letting Jake the Hater's imagination run amok.
It's true.
And when I go in the theater, now I have no way to expect. Like Endgame did a perfect job never telling us the name and putting out little viral cues and stuff. But the way Spider-Man is doing it goes back to the epitome that Sony doesn't know what the fuck they're doing. And without Kevin Feige in the MCU, they would be fucking failing again.
Do you kind of feel like Sony's going to shoot themselves in the foot just in the long run?
Yeah.
Because they have they came out with Venom and Venom 2, which I thought Venom was okay. Like it wasn't what I would have wanted it to be. And I thought Venom 2 was decent. I liked, and spoiler alert if you haven't seen Venom 2, but I liked at the end, where there is the crossover with Spider-Man. Like I appreciated that. I like what the MCU is doing with the multiverse, and I see multiverse stuff in the previews for Morbius, and I like that. Obviously, Michael Keaton's in it, but there's also Toby Easter eggs. There's Andrew Garfield Easter eggs. So, like, does all of this kind of take place right now? And then that's why there's so many different references to different universes. Like, I would be fine with that. I'm good for that in a certain thing. But I have to be honest, dude, that's more of a MacGuffin than I think anything else, because the MacGuffin is, oh my gosh, there's a multiverse, right? But then there's this other story that happens around it. It's kind of like the snap, or what the MCU calls the blip. I kind of want to end that storyline, because people continue to question, like, well, it's 5 years later. Like, how do you explain this? Like, they want to know how you got from point A to point B in the storyline. And I think you can pigeonhole yourself into the story where it doesn't make sense. So I kind of just want to move past that. And that's the same thing as we end up with this multiverse. Like, I think the multiverse is awesome. I loved reading all the comics with the multiverse in it. But I'm of the thought process that as soon as the storyline is done, we need to move past it.
Yeah, I agree. I also want to move past MacGuffin. I really don't. I'm going to point out one thing on the show. Like, you hate notifications. I don't like it when you use words like the Kazith or MacGuffin that sounds made up, like an Egg McMuffin.
You don't know what a MacGuffin is?
Never heard that word.
Oh, so a MacGuffin is a part of a story that, like, distracts you?
Where is this?
Like,
is this in the Webster dictionary?
I don't know.
Well, this word sounds stupid. This is a stupid word. I do not like this word.
I'll bet you it's an Urban Dictionary.
No, fuck that. No, it doesn't count. Anyways, fuck your MacGuffin. I think they are. See, that's their exact point, that Spider-Man has pigeonholed themselves with the way they're releasing stuff. And I agree with you. I think now that we're going to the multiverse, what are they? What do you do next, right?
Well, here's what you do next, fuckstain. In the Oxford Dictionary, MacGuffin is an object or device in a movie or a book that serves merely as a trigger for the plot. Suck my ass, Jake the Hater.
Suck my MacGuffin.
Yeah. Again, it just distracts you from the plot.
No, it's so back to my point on that. I don't know what they do next, right? I feel that I also told you this, and this was during that conversation, that I honestly think that when the DCEU started announcing all this like Flash crossover stuff, that Marvel's like, you know what, we're going to show them up again. Fuck them. Watch this. Watch what we do with the multiverse.
Yeah.
And because here's the thing, nothing is still coming out with the DCEU multiverse. Sony and Marvel are going to beat them to it again.
How do you feel about, so speaking of the DCEU, I think the focal point, or the MacGuffin in the DCEU is Flashpoint, right? But it has to do with the multiverse. It has to do with different Batman. So you've got Michael Keaton as Batman 1989. You've got Ben Affleck in there. I doubt that they're going to bring in any other Batmans than just that. They're probably not going to bring in Christopher Nolan's Batman. Who was the actor who played him? Christian Bale. They're not going to bring in Val Kilmer. Like they kind of did this in the DC shows, but to be candid with you, I don't watch the DC shows. I don't know if you do. I don't think we've ever talked about it, but I never really got into them. And now that they're so deep, like there's such a big storyline, I don't even know where to start or like how to navigate that path.
If I watch DC shows, I watch the animated universe, those movies and stuff.
Okay.
Swamp Thing, I will tell you, was amazing. I loved Swamp Thing, and that's actually a funny story why that was canceled. It was
we've
all
talked
due
about that before.
An accounting error. Somebody fucked up and wrote the wrong number.
Yeah.
But no, I don't really get into Titans. I tried, and they're so bad. It reminds me of when we were younger, and I know they're on like the CW. Remember there was like channels like UPN and
WGN
and all those.
All those.
And they had those like sister shows, and then they would have like a show that was so bad that you're like, oh, like it's like what was the perfect example? Smallville, right? I never watched Smallville, and I heard that's actually not bad.
No, Smallville was pretty good for the first few seasons.
Yeah, if you like Dawson's Creek and Superman having
that's
sex,
pretty much what it was.
That's what I mean. It was Superman and fucking Dawson Creek had a gay baby, and that's the show.
Well, they walked into a bar.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I think so. So to kind of go back to the original question, I think the DCEU, you and I have talked about this quite a bit. I think that Kevin Feige and the MCU brought in the right characters with I don't want to say the right storylines because there were some pretty bad storylines, but with storylines that can intertwine and intersect and create a bigger world, right? And with DC, they had Christian Bale's Batman. They had Superman. Was it Superman Returns?
Yeah, that was with I don't remember who. Yeah, but they had Superman Returns.
So they had him. They had plans for even like a Nicolas Cage Superman. So I mean, they tried to intersect these to a certain extent, but I think, you know, Kevin Feige's vision of creating a Marvel universe where things intersected. You even look now that Marvel's bought Fox. There were plans to intersect with X-Men. There were plans to intersect with Fantastic Four, with Spider-Man, and none of those came to fruition. But with the DCEU, I felt like all of it was rushed. Like they came out with the Superman movie, Man of Steel, which I thought was really good, but it was a Zack Snyder movie. Like it's produced just like a Zack Snyder movie, directed just like a Zack Snyder movie. I did think the storyline was really good. And then they tried to intertwine that with Batman v Superman, and then they just like forced Wonder Woman in there. And then they had a Wonder Woman movie, and then there was Aquaman, and like it was forced. Whereas with the MCU, there was a build up to it. Would you agree with that?
Well, yeah. So there's a few points there. One, they were forced to rush because they were trying to play catch up. Yeah. Two, if they were always smart because they always kept all these characters separate, right? They kept their universes within their own universes, like they didn't mix them. And then when they saw the MCU success, they wanted to do that. The problem is DC had the perfect characters for it. Like, just like, you know, the MCU had they had, you know, Iron Man, Thor, Hulk. They had all these good characters that they could build this with. They, you know, the DCEU had Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Flash. You could have made them all and took your time. The other mistake they made is they don't know how to deal with failure.
No.
They're like that kid on the field that flips out if he barely loses. And Marvel's like, fuck it, we'll just continue on. Like Thor was a terrible movie.
Thor the Dark World.
Thor the Dark World's an even worse movie.
Or Iron Man 3.
And what they look at is they still push through it. And what Warner Brother does, because in my opinion too, they're a studio that loves to get in their own way. They give up and try to start over. Or go, we're just going to do this, or announce something that's batshit crazy. And then you've got so much bounce back and forth, and you don't know who's going to be in it and what they're going to do. And I think they're reevaluating and trying to do it. And I think they're doing it in an opposite way now, going, okay, we'll keep some of these guys. We'll get rid of some of these guys. We'll probably keep Batfleck again one day in the future. So I think it's actually going to work out better for them now in the long run, because I think they're going to play it smarter. But if that studio can't get out of their own damn way, they will never fucking succeed.
Is it fair to say, though, that the only studio that never, like, and I don't want to say never, but didn't get in their way enough to like impede themselves was the MCU? Because if you look at like Fox, they came out with the X-Men, they rebooted the X-Men, then they tied in all X-Men properties. Right. They came out with Fantastic Four. They rebooted the Fantastic Four, which I still haven't seen to this day because of how bad it's rated. Like, one day maybe we'll just do with you and bad I movies. Recording over it just like it'll be one of those things that you can, hey, play the Bleach Bros podcast along with watching this shitty movie. But then you look at Sony. Like Sony's got at this moment they've got 3 Spider-Mans. They've got Toby, they've got Andrew, and now with the MCU's help, they have Tom. So is it fair to say that Warner Brothers is just doing that without help or guidance from somebody like the MCU, where, you know, now that these properties are actually communicating with one another, now they can actually do world building, whereas WB came out and tried to like force the world down the viewer's mouth without like the backstories of the characters?
Yeah, but my third point that I was going to make is DC is also its own problem based on the characters they have. So, and I've said this before, my biggest argument with the DCEU is their villains suck. unless you have like Batman's Rogue Gallery, right? Those are amazing.
Right.
It's like Spider-Man. That's why him and Spider-Man are also the biggest characters in the world. Superman can be included in that, but fuck that guy. Their characters that they fight against are very intricate, very intriguing. You could put any Batman villain in a movie and you're probably going to love it, right? You can put any Spider-Man villain in a movie, you're probably going to love it. When you watch Wonder Woman, you have a god. When you watch Spider-Man, you have gods from another planet. When you watch Aquaman, you have gods. And it gets to the point where, one, they have to be so overly CGI with their power. It's also
I'm going to correct
fact,
you
like,
real quick. I think you said Spider-Man, but if you did, it was Superman.
Superman. But my point is, you have gods, right? So they're almost on the level of Thanos. So you're always fighting characters on the level of Thanos. Now I know they have Darkseid and all that, right? But you look at it like Wonder Woman 2, and I haven't seen it, but I heard it wasn't very good.
It actually wasn't bad.
She has the Cheetah Woman, right? Which is an intriguing character. I was interested in that. I just haven't watched the movie. Aquaman, I've never really been into, and I understand they changed his look and they made Jason Momoa and all that, and that's fine. But I think like when you watch the Snyder Cut, that movie was 10 times better.
I like we talked about this before, where I think the best thing that they did with it was make it into episodes.
Technically, yeah.
Or
I wish they would have actually made it into episodes, like they were gonna.
What was it, chapters or episodes or whatever? But they parceled off the storylines and connected them all together. And I thought that was something that, because of how long it was, I thought that's something where you now have a spot to pause and go do something else for a little bit and then come back to it and finish it off. Or, you can just like watch a chapter a night or whatever you wanted to do to try to make it more digestible. I appreciated what they did with that. I do think that Zack Snyder was a visionary in a sense where he had this storyline that he wanted to do. However, some of the things that he wanted to do were kind of questionable. Like I can't think of what they were off the top of my head, but there was like
he wanted Batman
Wonder Woman got pregnant.
No, it was Amy Adams' character Lois was going to get pregnant with Batman's baby or something. It was a whole mess.
There was some weird things in there, but for what the Snyder Cut was of the Justice League, I thought that was fine. But again, you go even before that, and then you had the Battle of the Marthas, right? Mm-hmm. Where Superman's mom and Batman's mom are both dead, and like Batman and Superman realize that they have a mother that's the same name, and they're like, "My mother's Martha." No, my mother's Martha. And then all of a sudden,
Martha.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden they like, oh my god! It was like you and I at in elementary school when we met each other. You're like, "Hey, you like that? I like that. Let's be friends."
Yeah.
And
it
so
only
it was
works
really
in Step Brothers.
stupid.
It doesn't work in real life.
Right. So, I don't know. I do agree with you though that that DC does have a hard time because it deals with gods, but I think that this is a good place to actually bring up the Eternals.
Well, before you do that, sorry. I wanted to make one messed up joke and I was thinking about this. I hope they bring Val Kilmer's Batman back. Because that would be the best Batman voice ever. I'm Batman. I'm here to get you.
Oh.
And with that, we're canceled.
Well, since we're going to be canceled, hey, Jake, do you know what's black and at the top of the stairs?
No, I don't.
Stephen Hawking when his house caught on fire.
No, you did not talk about me.
It's because Mike Tyson started the fire.
Oh God, dude. No, I also said I love Val Kilmer's Batman. That's the other reason, but that would just be the most. That would be the one time you can't say he failed at the voice.
It'd be so pathetic. It'd be so pathetic.
Let it be. All right, Eternals.
So let me Yeah. So that, for those of you listening, if that actually made the episode, it's because I was lazy, because that was just very, very bad jokes. But anyway, when it comes to the DCEU, you're dealing with a lot of gods. Now, Marvel just came out with Eternals, right? And I was very concerned initially with how they were going to bring Thanos into the storyline, because Thanos is a Celestial, or at least half. I think his dad was a Celestial,
right?
And so I also have an issue with the MCU where they kill off the bad guys. Like the bad guys never have an opportunity to continue to live; they just get killed off, and that's my struggle, right? But with Eternals, they created this universe where more or less they're gods. I mean, they're not, but more or less they are. And they introduced the Celestials in such a huge manner that it made it digestible for a character like Galactus to come in, and where you can actually see him and realize the scale of how big he is. Like when you look at the Celestials in the Eternals movie, they're massive, right? Huge. It's like they're holding up a billiard ball, and that's the Earth, right? I mean, that's how big they are. So I do agree with you that the DCEU has the potential to be stale in a certain aspect because it's gods versus gods versus gods for the most part. And then you got a billionaire who fights gods. But I do think that there's a digestible manner where as a fan, you can see the content. As a movie studio, you can produce the content where you have a digestible storyline for the viewer, but also this magnificent storyline where you're actually getting into very, very big things. Does that make sense?
Yeah. The Eternals had to take on a big scale, make it work with a huge cast, multiple characters, give us something that was around and explain why they weren't around, even though they were around, which I know that sentence sounds terrible. But I actually liked it more than I thought. I was reading the reviews before I went. I thought it was going to be terrible. I was happy it was the first sex scene in the MCU ever. That was pretty cool.
There was a lot of uproar about that there was a sex scene.
I know for me there wasn't enough boobies or subies, but there
wasn't any boobies or subies. If we're
not
clear
enough
on that. But for me, I took my 11-year-old goddaughter to go see Eternals with me, and they did the sex scene, and I'm like, right? Like, do I cover her eyes? Like, does she look away? How do I handle this? Because I'm not really her, I'm not her dad. I'm just her godfather. So, but there was also the first gay kiss scene in the Eternals as well, which also got uproar. And I know that there's a lot of social aspects on that. I just think, people, if you have a problem with gay people, then you need to, rethink the world you're living in, because there's a lot of gay people that inhabit this earth and they're not going away. So figure it out, but there's going to be gay people kissing.
It's called Get Over It.
Yeah. There's going to be gay people kissing.
Yeah.
And if that's not something that you want to watch, then fine, but don't be pissed off because the world portrays it, And so, but back to the whole world that they built, right?
Right.
I think that Marvel did a good job of presenting a storyline that was so magnificent in size that it's digestible for the viewer. And I know I've said that multiple times,
right.
But I think with the DCEU, there's a lot of concepts that aren't as easily understood, or at least explained in the same manner that the MCU did. Does that make sense?
No, it does. But see, here's my fear with it though, B-word. I don't need a sequel. It told a story. It told me enough about these characters. They changed some things. I didn't mind that. I'm done with it though. I've never really been a huge Eternals fan, and I just never really read the stuff.
Same.
I liked the characters. I liked the story. I liked the sex scene. I liked the gay kiss. I like it all. I love the Celestials. I like at the end it left it open, a cliffhanger. But if I was being brutally honest, I don't need a sequel for this. I don't care if they cross over.
I think that the only thing that I would say is you can kind of do the storyline very similar to that of like Guardians of the Galaxy.
Okay.
Where you've got a handful of people or a group of people that that go off on their own storyline that somewhat affects, the overarching story of the MCU. I think that there's some things that needs to be addressed, especially if a character as magnificent as Galactus comes in. Like you kind of have to deal with that too. But I guess to kind of wrap up the whole nerdgasming here, I think we both appreciate what's happening with the MCU. We like the storylines that are coming out. I'm excited to see things like Blade and Morbius crossover, hopefully. And I want to see John Bernthal come back as the Punisher. There's a lot of things that I'd like to see. I could care less if they cast or even do anything with Jessica Jones or Luke Cage. I'm pissed off that Netflix botched Iron Fist because I think that he would have been great in Shang-Chi, or at least to pair with Shang-Chi. And I thought and just to revisit, I mean, I don't know that we talked about Shang-Chi, but Shang-Chi was badass.
I love Awkwafina too. I'm a huge Awkwafina fan.
She was so good in that movie.
She's epic. I wouldn't mind if they brought Luke back and Jessica Jones and Iron Fist. I don't care because like that's
same actors though.
Yeah, I'm fine with it. I'm fine with all of them. Because the last thing is like now that they've crossed over so much, and we're probably going to get Toby and Andrew and Spider-Man, right? This is coming full circle. Do you have the fear that they're going to try to cross over every damn person?
No, okay. I don't because I think that they're cherry picking. Like I don't think that you're going to see like the characters from Daredevil. I think you're going to see Daredevil, and I think you're going to see Kingpin, but I don't think you're going to see Foggy Nelson.
Oh, I think you get Foggy.
I don't think you're going to get
amazing.
Foggy.
He was amazing.
He was fantastic. Yeah, I agree. I just don't think you're going to get him. Whatever what his assistant's name, his girlfriend's name, I don't remember what her name is.
I don't
think they're going to get her back. Jessica Jones, like, to be honest with you, I never watched the final season just because I knew it was done. I never wanted to spend time on it. I loved everything else that they did, especially with the Purple Man. I thought he was fantastic. Luke Cage, I thought the way that they ended the series, because again, it was on a cliffhanger because it was assumed that there were more series. I thought that they were going to a good storyline, or at least a decent storyline. And with Iron Fist, I was actually really excited for the next storyline, but the acting was terrible. So I don't think that I think that they're going to cherry pick because it's like, are you going to bring over, Hugh Jackman from the X-Men, or are you going to bring over some, select X-Men characters? I think that Marvel wants to reboot that in the same manner that Marvel wants to reboot Fantastic Four.
Right.
So
I don't
know that they're going to bring everybody over.
See, I think you reboot it, but I think every now and then you sort of do what Spider-Man did. You wait its time and then you bring a character back every now and then. Like, here's the thing. I would love it if they recast Wolverine, right? Made a great film, had him in movies, and then Hugh Jackman made an appearance eventually. So I think that would be badass.
What would you think about a Wolverine Disney Plus series?
Nope.
That goes with the Hulk?
Nope.
Why not?
I don't think it's going to be done right. I would rather have a Hulk versus Wolverine movie than a series. But I have fear of it, just like I have fear because Disney owns Predator and stuff like that. That they don't like to do rated R stuff, dude. Yeah. It's not going to get that deep to what I want it to.
We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens with not Daredevil. What the hell
Wolverine?
Is Ryan Reynolds' character's name?
Deadpool.
Yeah. We'll see what happens with Deadpool and how they handle that. I think that that's going to stay the same, but he's obviously going to cross over into the MCU. But keep in mind, this is the same studio that did some things on Hulu that were rated R-ish.
But that's my point why I wanted a movie, not a series. Because if they're going to put a Wolverine series on Disney Plus, they're not going to make it rated R. If they make a movie, they have more leeway to make it rated R. That's my point.
Okay. I mean, I get you there. I think Moon Knight and Blade might be our answer to that, just to see with how they handle those two franchises, just to see if they're going to allow more hardcore storylines or more risque storylines, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So I have some hope. I do not want them to introduce Miles Morales in the next Spider-Man. However, I want them to bring Miles Morales soon. Does that make sense?
It does, and I understand you don't want him thrown in that. And sort of like how I don't want certain villains thrown in this film either. I want them brought in later. Yeah, I don't know. I'd like Miles Morales. I like him in the animated universe, I guess, more than anything, because his superpowers too.
Oh, so you know me, dude. Like I'm not a big animated comic watcher at all, like movies or television series. But Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse was fantastic. It was so good. It was really, really good. And I loved how they handled Miles Morales in there. And if there's a way that they can bring that live action, I'm all about that life. I would like to see Spider-Man 2099 because he was a fun character as well. But while we're on this topic, though, let's do a little bit of Would You Rather. So I'll start it off.
Okay.
And would you rather have the superpower of flight or the superpower of brute strength?
Flight.
Why?
I hate traffic. And if all I had was brute strength and I was in traffic, I would Hulk out.
Okay.
And I would go to jail, even though I could probably break out. But I could get things done faster. I would look cooler. I could be in the air. If I really wanted to separate myself from something, I could. There's a lot more I could do with flight than strength.
Okay.
I mean, I've seen weightlifters. I mean, there's, and
Right.
It's not that that's what I'd be limited to, but you know what I mean? Like, because here's the other thing. If you could fly, right, you could show that off and be yourself. If you had brute strength, I guarantee you'd be like never allowed to participate in certain things like football.
Yeah.
Because they would know that you could just rip somebody's head off.
Kind of like in The Incredibles when you had whatever the son's name was when he was running track.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to like hold yourself back. Okay, so would you rather have Johnny Blaze's flat powers for fire or Iceman?
Ooh. That wow. I'm gonna have to go with Iceman.
Okay, why?
Because at some point when I'm married and it's later on in life and like I've aged out of the superhero, era in my era, I can go into the closet and go, honey, where's my super suit? And then I can like slide off on the ice.
This went nowhere to where I thought. First, I thought you were going to say, like, I'd save the world from global warming and go fix the ice caps. And then I thought you were going to say, when I get old, I'm thinking his penis isn't going to work. He's going to make it hard. And then it went to the closet. I'm like, okay, so he's going to cryo freeze himself because he's too old. And then it's, where's my super suit? All right.
I just in general, I think that ice gives you more flexibility than fire does. I think because when you're setting things on fire, it's like it's on fire.
Yeah, that's why I want that. See, I'm going to answer the question I asked you myself.
So you would want fire?
Oh, I'm going to piss everybody off. Just like I said,
okay.
like the exact opposite of me answering the strength thing. I could just do like snap my fingers and like have fire come out and look at somebody like, yeah, motherfucker, like let's do this. Like, all right, so yours, fly or brute strength? I
would do brute strength.
And why?
That was a very sensual why, Jake.
Well, because I'm thinking because at first I was like, is it because you feel like a penguin and you're just not going to fly? I'm sorry, I just thought it.
No, it's. I think it because again, I mean, flight is cool and all. I got nothing against flight, but okay, yeah, you flew. Like, if you're a slow flyer.
I was gonna say, B word. If you fly, I hope you would be like Kirby every time and go and suck in. And
I'm more like Yoshi, dude. I just jump for apples.
I'm gonna see you like, here I go, guys. Here I go.
Yeah. No, I think brute strength would be good because I think it's more useful than flight.
Okay. What other one you got?
So, would you rather have X-ray vision or telepathy?
See, I want to say telepathy, but here's the thing. I don't actually want to hear what people think about me. It's more because of who I am. Can you imagine this? You're having sex with your wife. And you decide like that what women want thing, right? Like,
yeah.
You're at first thinking, oh, she's going to let me know. No, because here's the thing. I doubt that she's thinking, oh, I wish he would go to the left, and more just, I wish he would just finish. So you wouldn't hear like tips to get better. You would just hear how you suck. Yeah. Like that's really how it works.
Or you would hear that. You would hear her putting together your shopping list.
Yeah, like tomorrow.
Oh, we're gonna need some milk. Yeah, we need a dozen eggs.
Yeah.
Oh, he's getting a little soft. We need some bread.
X-ray vision. Now, here's the problem with X-ray vision, though. Like, what level? And one, am I giving people radiation? Because if I am good. Two, is it bones, like actual X-rays, or is it like just see through clothes, like the dream, or is it like I'm just looking at people's bones?
I don't know. Extrapolate on it as you want, man.
Well, it's bones. See, and that's what's up. I'm going to pick a crappy power. I'm going to be an X-ray guy, and here's why. I'm going to go to medical school and fucking just ace all the tests by just knowing bones. That's what I'm going to do.
There you go.
Be an osteo doctor, or whatever they're called, right? An osteo for whatever. I don't know why I try to say fucking MacGuffin words. All right. Would you rather be like blue and hairy like Beast, or stony like the Thing, like all rock?
Blue and hairy like Beast.
Why?
Because I would imagine that I'd have like the little dog's red rocket mushroom.
Oh
and when you're stony, I don't know that anything sprouts out of it.
You just got boulders, just boulder hangers like your grandpa.
You know, yeah, maybe. But think about it. Like when they had the original Fantastic Four movie and they took the dude from the Shield, whatever his name was, and they made him all stone. And like, I don't know that like his fingers were massive, dude. Like, I don't know that you can do anything with them. I don't know that like it's like the Hulk's fingers. They're just too big for anything. Like he would have destroyed Black Widow, dude. Like if they would have ever ended up down that storyline. Yeah. They would have just destroyed her. Like she wouldn't have even died in Endgame. She would have died at the moment that they had sex, dude. It would have been crazy.
No, I believe in Scarlett Johansson. She would have made that work. I believe in her, dude. Don't fuck around with ScarJo. She would make that work. No, see, I thought you were gonna say Blue and Harry because you wanted to be a real life Muppet because I know how much you love the Muppets.
Am I a man or am I a Muppet?
With your gonzo dong.
Oh, if it was a gonzo dong, dude, I'd be singing I'm an island boy.
Oh, fuck you. Get out of here. We're not even talking. I don't even want to play this game anymore. See, I hate everything you're doing right now. This is just like you hate notifications. You know what I hate? When I get a notification that there's an island boy piece of shit thing that you put on my page. That's our old. We have two interactions in life now, Bjorn. It's this show and like talking and being professional, and then island boy fucking memes on my page all day.
I think you're over exaggerating the professional there, Jake. But well, with that, man, it's been a fun episode. Because I'm tired of fighting with you, let's go ahead and end it. So what do you got for me?
I'm an island. No. Thanks for all the dirty talk. Come back and get sanitized. This is Jake from the Bleach Bros podcast, and thank you for listening to today's episode. I want to bring to your attention our Linktree. Visit Linktree/Bleach Bros podcast for access to all of our socials, merch, and streaming sites. Linktree is linktr.ee/Bleach Bros podcast, all one word. And if you enjoy our content, make sure to give us a like, give us a review on whatever platform you are listening on, and also invite your friends.